Aisha Johnson sat in the corner of the conference room, her hands clenched tightly on her notebook. The executives of the company were all around her, discussing the upcoming financial strategy, yet her voice was barely heard. It had been like this for years. She had worked her way up in this high-stakes corporate world, but her race and gender had always been obstacles. Despite her intelligence, dedication, and expertise, her colleagues and superiors saw her as less than they were, an outsider in a world that had no place for someone like her. During a critical meeting with investors, Aisha was humiliated. Her colleague, Mark, a senior executive and a racist white man, mocked her presentation in front of the entire room. He pointed out the smallest mistake, blowing it out of proportion and using it to belittle her. "Maybe if you focus less on appearances and more on the details, we wouldn't have this issue," he sneered. Laughter followed, and Aisha froze. She could feel her face flush with embarrassment, but she said nothing. It wasn't the first time she had been dismissed, and she knew it wouldn't be the last. The humiliation stung, but Aisha's resolve hardened. She left the meeting quietly, determined not to let their mockery break her. She had a plan, one that involved much more than simply fighting back in the moment. She needed time, patience, and the right opportunity to prove her worth. Aisha knew that revenge wasn't about loud confrontations or heated arguments. It was about taking control, silently building the power that no one could deny, and when the time came, making her move. The day she had been waiting for was coming, and she would be ready. Aisha's mind never stopped working, even as she sat through countless meetings where her ideas were ignored or stolen. The boardroom was filled with people who thought they knew better than her, who overlooked her contributions simply because of her race and gender. But Aisha wasn't the type to give up. She wasn't just going to let this go on indefinitely. Over the next few months, Aisha began to gather information in the background. She paid attention to the financial statements, the company's flaws, and most importantly, the key players who could support her in the future. She started to build alliances with influential figures within the company, people who shared her vision for change and knew that the company could do better. She kept her work quiet, gathering resources and support behind the scenes, unnoticed by her colleagues. Aisha started investing in the company, buying up shares little by little, under the radar. No one suspected her of doing anything other than her usual duties. She knew that the power she was quietly acquiring would be her leverage when the time came. The company was at a turning point, and Aisha was prepared to step in when they least expected it. She also knew that the key to her success was patience. Instead of acting impulsively, Aisha bided her time, letting her colleagues think she was still just the quiet assistant they had ignored for years. But inside, she was changing the game. Every meeting, every project, every interaction, she was silently working her way to the top, quietly building the empire that would soon be hers. The day had arrived. Aisha stood at the front of the grand corporate hall, where the high-profile investors and the Radford family were gathered. It was a major corporate event, and she had been invited, though not as a guest, but as the one who would change everything. She was now in full control, and the family who had treated her as a just the helper would see just how wrong they were.
Why, when the room fell silent, Aisha stepped forward, her presence commanding the attention of everyone.
She had prepared for this moment for months, and now it was time to reveal what no one had expected. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady and firm, "I have something important to share. Over the past year, I have been acquiring shares in this company." Quietly, carefully, and without anyone noticing, gasps filled the room. The Radford family's expression shifted from amusement to confusion, and then to fear. Aisha paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. She continued, "I now control the majority of the shares in Radford Enterprises. This company is no longer in the hands of the people who think they own it. I hold the power to either save or destroy it." The room erupted in murmurs, and the Radfords, once so confident in their position, now looked lost. Mark, who had humiliated Aisha in front of the entire company, was speechless. The investors who had always turned a blind eye to the company's flaws were now questioning their decisions. Acacia had the power to change the entire future of Radford Enterprises. "I'm not here to destroy," Aisha continued, her tone calm yet commanding. "I'm here to lead, to ensure that we build something better, more inclusive, and far more profitable. I will be taking over as CEO." As Aisha took control, she moved quickly to implement her vision for the company. Mark was fired for his toxic behavior, and the Radford family was ousted from their positions of power. Aisha made it clear that things would no longer run the same way. Diversity and inclusion became the core values of Radford Enterprises, and she worked to ensure that everyone in the company had an equal opportunity to succeed, regardless of their background. Under her leadership, the company flourished. The investors who had initially been skeptical saw the positive changes she was making, and profits soared. Aisha's strategic decisions and her vision for the company led to record-breaking successes, and the company's image was transformed. She had proven that she was not just capable, but the best choice to lead. As for Mark, his arrogant dismissal of Aisha and her abilities had cost him everything. The once dominant family had been dethroned, and their empire was now in Aisha's capable hands. The woman they had humiliated, mocked, and underestimated had become the one in charge. Her quiet determination and strategic brilliance had led her to this moment, showing the world that sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply owning what was always meant to be yours. Yeah! Standing at the head of the boardroom, Aisha looked at Mark one last time. "You thought I didn't belong here," she said, her voice steady. But it turns out I own it all now. This four-part breakdown gives a clear view of Aisha's journey, from being underestimated to taking control and getting her revenge as the new CEO. Each section highlights key moments, emotions, and shifts in power, leading to her ultimate victory.